Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a throwaway account in the relationship advice subreddit. The post is titled, "My ex-husband is upset that I moved on so quickly. I 38, female, caught my ex-husband 41, male having an affair the same week that I found out I was pregnant. The blow was devastating. I didn't know what to do. Should I get an abortion or stay with him for the sake of my baby? I decided to get a divorce and keep my baby. My ex-husband asked for a second chance, but I knew that wouldn't work, so he moved out and in with his affair partner 25F within the month. I also started a new job with better pay and more flexibility as I was becoming a single mother. However, I had to work hard in the beginning to establish a good reputation before taking maternity leave. After I gave birth to my baby, I was back at work after 3 months. Being a single mom while pursuing a career was not an easy task. I hardly slept or ate during the entire first year. I lost all my baby weight plus an additional 15 kilos. My ex-husband and I have shared custody, but since she's still a baby, we are waiting to implement the every other week arrangement until she turns 2. He visits to see her 3 times a week, mostly when my mom or the nanny is present. I just can't bear seeing him so frequently, especially when he brings his affair partner with him. The few times I've seen him, he has looked at me oddly, asking if I had changed my hair or complimenting my dress. Yesterday, we held my baby's first birthday party at my ex-in-law's home. It was just family, my ex-husband, his fiancée, his sister, and my parents. My ex-husband seemed very irritated for some reason and sulked the entire evening. After the cake, his mother asked him why he was acting that way, and he replied with nothing. When I asked him if he was okay, he exploded. He started yelling, telling me that I was the one who broke us. He claimed that if I had taken care of myself earlier, nothing would have happened. Everyone was shocked, and he stormed out in tears. I know what he said was untrue, but it still made me think. I have always been modest and rarely wore makeup. My style is typically basic, black t-shirts and jeans, but I wouldn't say that I let myself go. While I do look different now and occasionally wear dresses and more feminine clothes, I wasn't aware that I had started taking care of myself more. I just feel happy and at peace with myself now and maybe unconsciously trying to look nice because I want to start dating again. I feel guilty that he thought I was neglecting him. If I did, it was never intentional. Besides, even if I have started caring more about my appearance now, there's no way I could look 13 years younger. The advice I'm looking for is whether I should continue ignoring him or talk to him about his outburst. Do I need to explain myself? How can I move on from this? He is staying in my life as a co-parent, and I don't want any more tantrums thrown at me in the future. 3 months later, OP provided an update. I 38F found out that my husband, 41M, was having an affair with a co-worker, 25F, the same week I discovered I was pregnant with my daughter. My husband was my soulmate, and this revelation hurt me deeply. I decided to get a divorce and keep the baby. My pregnancy was difficult, and I battled depression. The first year of being a mom was the hardest, but also the most rewarding year of my life. Although I was still heartbroken about the divorce, I adjusted well and found a new purpose in life and a type of happiness I never knew I could feel. I also started a new job that offered more flexibility and better pay, which suited me as a single mom. Now I can say that I'm very happy and content. My husband opposed the divorce and initially refused to sign the papers. He wanted us to work things out, but my love for him made forgiveness impossible. He soon moved on with his affair partner and they are now engaged. However, I have noticed that he does not like seeing me thrive. I have full custody of my daughter for the first 3 years because we thought shared custody at her young age wouldn't be fair to her. Instead, he visits her 4 to 5 times a week, often when my mom, who helps me with the baby, is around. On the few occasions when I'm home during his visits, he comments on my appearance, complimenting my outfit or asking if I've done something with my hair. I've lost a lot of weight. Initially, these comments seemed harmless, but he has become angrier and more annoyed with me. At my baby's first birthday party, he threw a tantrum because I looked good in a black dress. We celebrated at my in-laws' house, which included my in-laws, my parents, my sister-in-law, and her family, as well as my ex and his fiancée. My father-in-law told me I looked great, which made my ex very unhappy. He started yelling at me in front of everyone, blaming me for our breakup before storming out in tears. This happened a few weeks ago. I asked him to give my daughter and me some space and not visit until he could be civil. He responded by saying that I couldn't forbid him from seeing his daughter. Now his mother comes to take our daughter to her place so he can see her. Yesterday, he came to my apartment to talk. He was angry because I could forget him and move on so easily. I didn't know how to respond. I just started crying and asked him to leave. None of this was something I wanted or planned. I never wanted my baby to grow up in two different homes or to miss out on the love her parents once had for each other. I have moved on because I want my baby to have a happy life, which is what makes me glow, as he resentfully put it. I want him to understand that we need to get along for our daughter's sake. That's the least we can do for her. He has moved on with another woman, while I've chosen to focus on myself and our child. How can I help him open his eyes? He needs to start thinking about her needs because she didn't ask to be born into this situation. Any advice would be appreciated except for suggestions about getting back together with him. I've considered couples counseling, but since we're divorced, I'm not sure how that would work. And a few days after that, OP gave us her final update. Thank you for listening to all my woes. Sometimes when you're immersed in your own problems, you forget that there are others who have gone through or are going through similar experiences. My family has been incredibly supportive, but I'm glad I shared my feelings here because I've realized that I have been quite naive and need to learn a lot about parenthood and being a single mother. I can never plan or control everything in my life or my baby's life. I can only try my best, and whatever I do, there will be many surprises and unexpected challenges, and that's okay. There is also no one right way to raise a child. I tried so hard to make things perfect because of the guilt I felt for not being able to give my baby the life I thought I could provide. I can't control or change my ex-husband, and I don't think I have the right to do so. I can only change my own life. And right now, his behavior is toxic, which I don't want in my life. I need to cut ties and go completely no contact with him. I don't know why he's acting this way, and I'm not sure it would make a difference if I knew the reason. For both our sakes, I need to distance myself. We have shared custody, but because of her young age, she will be living full-time with me for the first 3 years. That was our agreement. From now on, he will see her at his parents' house instead of coming to my place several times a week and staying as long as he wants. He is never allowed to talk to me outside of matters concerning our baby, and all communication must be via text. Any comments about us, my appearance, or anything else, positive or negative, will not be tolerated. To him, I am now a stranger, and he has no right to say or do any of the things he has since the divorce. I have communicated all of this via email because I don't want to see him. He asked to meet, but I refused. He responded by saying he understood and would keep his distance. He also apologized for crossing boundaries, but mentioned that he still saw me as his family and was hurt. I didn't reply. I hope everything is fine now and that he behaves himself. I also need to let go of the resentment and bitterness that I feel towards him. I loved him and I still do in some ways, but I am so angry about what he has done. However, this is life. People change and fall out of love, and that's okay. It's time for me to move on. User Adam Skeeter said, absolutely insane that the person who had an affair thinks she's moved on quickly. You apparently moved on while still married. I hope OP is doing well. To this, user Porky Panda said, also it's been almost 2 years since she found out he was cheating, and she's not even dating yet. I wouldn't call that quickly. Guy is so irrational. User Ryu Maru said, a 41-year-old cheats and then marries a 25-year-old. That alone says a lot. So when OP puts on a little weight, her husband no longer finds her attractive enough to stay loyal. He finds a young and probably naive affair partner, destroys their marriage, and then gets upset when depression and work lead OP to lose the weight she gained, making her attractive again. Am I understanding this correctly? What a shallow person. A deleted user said, this is a classic tale of a married man who chases a younger woman, gets caught, and loses his wife. Subsequently, the wife learns how to live again, while the affair partner turns out to be less exciting than expected, leading him to realize what he has lost. I don't doubt that OP's weight loss played a role in this situation as well. A 30-pound drop is significant, and she probably looks much more attractive to him now. He needs to seek counseling. Yes, he caused this entire situation because he couldn't remain faithful, but his daughter is going to suffer because he cannot act like an adult and maintain a civil co-parenting relationship. OP is entirely justified in keeping him at a distance. His affair partner must be realizing what a poor deal she has gotten. Clearly, her now fiancé still loves his ex-wife. This next story was made in the AITAH subreddit by a user named Cold Mountain. The post is titled AITAH after leaving my wife after my stepson falsely accused me of hitting him. A marriage and family implodes. I 40M have been married to my wife 40F for 5 years. She has a son 10M and a daughter 8F from her previous marriage, and I have one daughter 7F from my previous marriage. About a month ago, her son accused me of hitting him. I have never put my hands on him or anyone else. My wife confronted me about the accusation and I denied it. Unfortunately, she didn't believe me. After our argument, I went to cool off and talk to a friend. He was very worried and advised me to get out of the house with my daughter. He explained that as a man, no one would believe me if things escalated and I could risk losing my daughter. I finally understood the gravity of the situation I was in. After a long walk, I made up my mind. I returned home and asked my wife to talk. I reiterated that I never hit her son, that I didn't know why he said it, and that I didn't want to know anymore. I told her that I no longer felt safe in the house and didn't want to risk my future or my daughter's future. While I understood her protective instincts as a mother, the last place I wanted to be was near a mama bear mindset. I packed our bags and left for my parents' house. I refused to take her calls and asked her to only contact me via messages. Her messages ranged from blaming me to blaming herself and expressing a desire to talk in person. 3 weeks later, she messaged me to say that she believes me. After I left, she began questioning her son's allegations and inconsistencies started to emerge. She realized that her son may not be telling the truth. She apologized profusely and begged me to come back. However, I told her that I couldn't risk it anymore. I don't trust her children or her ability to believe me in this situation. When she asked what she should do, whether she should give up custody of her kids, I told her that while I love her and want to be with her, I can't risk being around her children anymore. I expressed my sorrow, but suggested that it might be best for us to move forward with separation. To my surprise, she is actually considering giving up custody of her kids. Her ex-husband called me and asked why his ex-wife was talking about giving up custody. I told him the truth and he was very angry with both his son and my wife. He respected my request not to push further when I suggested he sort it out with her. So now we are in the middle of this storm and I'm not budging. I can't stay in the same house as her children. I'm being bombarded with phone calls from people blaming me for making my wife abandon her children. But what other choice do I have? I can't risk going back now, AITA. 3 months later, OP gave us an update. After I made my previous post, I decided to file for divorce and inform my wife. Literally the next day, she told me that she was pregnant. To be honest, I didn't believe her. It felt too convenient. I took some time to process the news and asked her if she would agree to let me accompany her to the doctor's appointment. She agreed, and it turned out she was 12 weeks pregnant. We had a conversation where I told her that we would need to do our best to co-parent the baby. She promised that she would ensure her son behaved from now on and that I wouldn't have to worry about anything. I told her that I wasn't willing to risk my future based solely on her word, especially considering how easily she believed her son over me. I also made it clear that I didn't blame her. It wasn't wrong for her to believe him. So we are definitely getting a divorce. She is scared about going through pregnancy alone, but what other choice do we have? We will have to do our best, even though another child will be raised in a broken family. Her relationship with her son has deteriorated. He is currently living with his father and she is refusing to talk to him. I can't find it in myself to judge her. She is going through pregnancy in her 40s, which is complicated enough on its own. On top of that, she has to navigate her divorce. Adding pregnancy hormones into the mix makes it easier for her to avoid talking to her son, all because she believed his lies. I spoke with her ex-husband and he and his wife are also struggling. His son is not doing well due to his mother basically ghosting him. I suppose the stern talking to that someone recommended in my previous post is no longer necessary. He has a pretty good idea of how much he messed up. It seems we are all in a situation where everyone loses. My daughter is the only one who remains relatively unscathed. She is adjusting well to the new apartment and settling into a new routine, all thanks to my friend who warned me in time and helped shield her from the chaos. To those who sent me messages asking how I was doing and for updates, forgive me for not replying sooner. I have been very preoccupied with everything going on. This is the first time I've logged into this account since my earlier post. User Munchkins and Dragons said she did the right thing by believing her kid, but it takes more work than just believing what they say. You have to take action and advocate for them, because kids don't really have much agency on their own. In order to do that though, you need facts. If my kid comes to me and said X person hit me, doesn't matter if that person is an adult or another kid, I'm going to start asking some questions, getting some details, and making a plan of where we go from here. When did this happen? Where did it happen? How many times? What were they doing before you were hit? Was it open hand or closed hand? Did they say anything before, during, or after? Are there any makes or bruises? I figure out what happened and then I react accordingly. We're not going to sweep violence and abuse under the rug, but we're also not going directly to the police if they actually just bumped into one another. Kids are going to say whatever they think will get someone to listen to them. Even kids who are telling the truth might embellish a little bit to make it more serious, so you'll believe them more. It's the adult's job to navigate that and help them learn. User Golden Goof said, "Man, this is messed up. That kid was 10 and told a very stupid, mean lie. But he's just a child. Honestly, his mother is part of the problem. She jumped the gun on the lie and went after OP, and she is ostracizing a 10-year-old for making a very poor decision. For the record, I'm not absolving the kid of blame, but come on, he's only 10. The mother, OP, and everyone else involved have a greater responsibility to handle this situation maturely and ensure that the kids aren't traumatized for life. That child is going to feel guilty and torn up about this forever, especially now that his mother doesn't want anything to do with him. I believe everyone involved could benefit from therapy." To this user, Noxako said, "I agree that the mother is part of the problem. She is too volatile in her decisions. The kid is just being a typical child. Obviously, what he did was very wrong, but he is still a kid and doesn't think about the consequences in much detail. I disagree, however, that OP needs therapy. Personally, I think he handled the situation as well as anyone could. His first priority was to protect his daughter and then himself. He never blamed the mother or forced her to give up her child. He was simply honest about the situation and its consequences. So props to OP for being mature and to his friend for providing an eye-opener." This final story was made in the credit score subreddit by a user named Credit Help Scammed. The post is titled, "My mom got a $30K personal loan in my name without my knowledge." The account is from February, which was when they bought a boat. They've missed 4 payments and told me they're going to let it default since the boat can't be repossessed. They're going to call DCFS on me. I knew my mom had her eye on a pontoon boat for the last year. She and my dad retired in 2022, and while they weren't swimming in money, I thought they were doing okay financially. They bought a boat in February for a little over $30,000. I didn't think much of it since they always rented a pontoon boat 2 to 3 times a year and didn't appear to have money issues. At the start of July, I began getting my ducks in a row to buy a house. When I applied for pre-approval, I found out my credit score was barely over 600, and I had an extra $30K in debt that I had no idea about. Even worse, it was over 90 days late. I told the lender that the account wasn't mine, and he suggested that my identity had probably been stolen, likely by someone close to me since the money would have had to go to a bank account in my name. I shared a bank account with my ex-fiancée and asked the bank to look into it. They informed me that the account had been closed a couple of years ago, and no attempts to send or withdraw money from it had been made since then. I filed disputes with both the company and the credit agencies as it was clear to me that I had been hacked or that my identity had been stolen. About a week ago, I received a notice from the company at my apartment stating that they were going to charge off the account if payment wasn't made. I requested more information from them and was directed to their fraud department. They informed me where the money was sent, to a bank account from when I was a minor that I shared with my mom. When I called that bank, they confirmed there was activity on the account and the statement showed the loan coming in with almost all of the money being transferred into what appears to be my mom's account at the same bank. I haven't used that bank in more than a decade. I called my mom to ask her about it, and after a long pause, she admitted that this was how they bought the boat. They made one payment on the account but realized that they probably couldn't afford the monthly payments for the next 5 years. When I asked why they hadn't told me, she said it was because they figured I would say no and that they had worked hard in their lives and wanted to enjoy retirement. It ended with them saying that the boat couldn't be repossessed because it was a personal loan. My mom suggested declaring bankruptcy, but I told them I was going to the police. She urged me not to do that because she believed they wouldn't take it seriously. When I insisted on going ahead with it anyway, she hinted that she might have to call Child Protective Services on me regarding an incident earlier this year when my 2-year-old burned himself on a hot pan during a simple ER visit. We were told accidents happen and he's fine now. I think I'm still going to report this to the police because declaring bankruptcy would make it impossible for me to buy a house. I just needed to vent and am looking for any advice. 3 months later, OP gave us an update. I filed my police report the same day as my first post. The officer and I talked for about 20 minutes and I printed out a statement from the bank. A couple of days later, I spoke with a detective for another 20 minutes. Fast forward about 2.5 weeks. My dad called to say that my mom had been arrested. He explained that an officer and a detective showed up at their house asking to speak with her. When she went onto the porch, they grabbed her and arrested her. The detective explained that they had a warrant. My mom has never been in trouble with the law before and she was arrested on a felony charge. They tried to talk to her, but she immediately requested a lawyer. They stopped asking questions, but didn't let her see a lawyer right away. My dad was furious, but the detective advised him to have a lawyer go down to the county jail in the morning before she went before the judge. The next morning, apparently, she and the lawyer spoke and she was released in the afternoon with a new court date. About a week later, I received a call from DCFS requesting to meet with me about my son. I had nothing to hide, so I agreed. We spoke for about half an hour at my apartment and I explained the situation. She seemed understanding and told me there were no obvious issues, she just had to follow up on a report. I will say that if I'm ever in trouble, I'm hiring her lawyer. The case was dismissed at her next court date in late September. The detective called me the next day and explained that the state attorney believed that they wouldn't be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally stole my identity. He mentioned that he thought it was a weak reason because he had documents from the bank and loan company. He said the state attorney drops many cases, even open and shut ones, especially when they're not violent and when there's a hired attorney involved. My mom never made any statements other than her attorney telling the detective that she didn't do it. He also mentioned that the loan company might pursue my mom in a lawsuit. What brings me back here is that a couple of weeks ago, the account dropped from my credit report. Even better, I received a letter from DCFS yesterday stating that the allegation against me was unfounded. I'm never talking to my piece of trash mom again. Thank you to everyone who gave me advice and hope in my first post. It just sucks that she will probably end up with a free boat out of this unless the loan company sues her, which I hope they do. User Naria said, the loan company will definitely go after her and it won't be dismissed as easily. Mom just torpedoed her life. Hope it was worth it. Sean said, yes, the loan company has a vested interest in recovering that money. The district attorney has many other cases to worry about. While pursuing legal action may incur costs in legal fees, their attorneys are on the company payroll and that is their only job. User Virtual Plate 84 said, welcome to America, where we have a two-tier justice system. If mom had been assigned a public defender, she would have likely received a plea offer for a lesser charge and been told that if she didn't accept it, she would go to trial, get convicted on multiple felonies, and potentially spend the rest of her life in prison. However, since she has a lawyer who would laugh at that offer, the prosecutor decides it would take too much time and resources to pursue her case. Our system often seems to be less about actual justice and more about who can throw more money at a problem. User Cursed 818 said, the loan company is not the state prosecutor. They will go after a $30,000 defaulted loan, especially with all of that evidence, and they will win. They won't care about the boat, but they'll definitely get their money one way or another. They may put a lien on the mom's house or retirement accounts. Boats depreciate rapidly, while houses and bank accounts do not. She's really going to regret this.